Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the second installment in the chakra series using Anatomy of the Spirit by Dr. Caroline Myss. Today we are doing the second chakra, the sacral. It is about the power of relationships, and it's also called the partnerships chakra. I know some people say chakra, I say chakra. That's just how I came to hear it being spoken, and that's what I hear in my head when I'm reading books. So I will be saying chakra. The sacral chakra, the second one up from the bottom. Now, last week we covered the root chakra, the first chakra, and that's at the base of the spine. And we are moving upward into the area in the lower abdomen and up to the navel. And this chakra begins to pulsate and become distinct around the age of 7 for most people. And this is the age where we begin interacting with other children and adults outside of our home, and we start having relationships that are independent of just our tiny little home nest. And it's through these interactions with outside people that we begin to discover who we are as an individual. We start exploring our own personal power of choice. Now, in the second chakra, energy shifts from obeying the tribal authority that would be learned in the first chakra, the root chakra, and it moves us toward discovering other relationships that will satisfy our personal or physical needs. And though it's part of the lower 3 chakras that connect us with external forces, this is still a very, very powerful chakra. Physically, the sacral chakra or the second chakra, I'll be using those terms interchangeably. Physically, this chakra is related to the sexual organs, the large intestine, the lower vertebrae, the pelvis and hip area, the appendix, and the bladder. Emotionally and mentally, this chakra relates to relationships with other people and our need to control, to some extent, the dynamic of our physical environment. Dr. Myss says, all the attachments by which we maintain control over our external lives, such as authority, other people, or money, are linked through the sacral chakra to our energy field and physical body. The illnesses that originate in this energy center are activated by the fear of losing control. And just a few of the more common health problems associated with dysfunction in this energy chakra are prostate and ovarian cancer, chronic pain in the lower back and hips, and arthritis. Symbolically and perceptually, this chakra is related to our ability to generate a sense of personal identity and protective psychological boundaries. It's a survival instinct, our personal strength in the face of seductive forces like sex, money, and addictive substances. This second chakra energy of a healthy physical ego helps us interact with the world without having to compromise our integrity or sell ourselves. Now, the primary fears of the sacral chakra are things like the fear of the loss of control or being controlled by someone else through things like dominating events like addiction, rape, betrayal, impotence, financial loss, or the abandonment of our partner or colleagues. There's also a primary fear of the loss of power of the physical body. The primary strengths of this chakra are the ability and stamina to survive financially and physically on one's own and to defend and protect oneself. Also, it helps with the fight or flight instinct, the ability to take risks, and the resilience to recover from loss. It's also about the power to rebel and reestablish a life, as well as personal and professional decision making and our talents. The sacred truth of the sacral chakra is this: honor one another. From a spiritual perspective, Dr. Myss says, every relationship we develop, from the most casual to the most intimate, serves the purpose of helping us to become more conscious. Sometimes these relationships are very painful, but this is necessary because we are learning about ourselves and we are invited to face our own limitations. We can recognize the symbolic value of our relationships when we release our compulsion to judge what and who has value and instead focus on honoring the person and the task with which we are involved. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a image of the chakra system where at the base root chakra, it shows these two lines that start as one and then they divide and then they loop back into one and they crisscross divide again. So the root chakra, they're together. When they go up to the sacral chakra, they're two, they're divided. And this maybe implies that there's an inherent duality in the sacral chakra. I mean, there is, it doesn't imply it, there is. But I noticed that when I was looking at the chart that it's singular at the bottom, and then when it goes into the sacral, there are two instead of one. The energy of the first chakra, the tribal chakra, becomes divided into polarities in the second chakra. This division is often called things like yin and yang, anima and animus, or sun and moon, also male and female. These energies ensure that we attract to ourselves relationships that will help us come to know ourselves. The spiritual challenge, Dr. Myss says, is to learn to interact consciously with others, to form unions with people who support our development, and to release relationships that handicap our growth. We generate patterns of energy that attract people who are opposite us in some way, who have something to teach. The energy of the second chakra helps us evolve beyond the collective energy of the tribe, or what we learn in our root chakra. Choice is born of opposites, Dr. Myss says, and the duality of the second chakra is forever challenging us to make choices in a world of opposing sides, of positive and negative energy patterns. Every choice we make contributes a subtle current of energy to the universe. Managing the power of choice is the essence of the human experience. The power to make choices is the dynamic that converts our spirits into matter, our words into flesh. Choice is the process of creation itself. Therefore, make your choices wisely. Each choice is a creative act of spiritual power for which you are held responsible. There is a paradoxical nature in choice because sometimes what seems right can turn out wrong. A choice that seems good can end up bad. And when things seem to be going smoothly, everything can suddenly erupt into chaos. Another paradox is that the energy of the second chakra compels us to try to control our lives, but the lesson of the chakra is that we cannot be in control. Since the physical world cannot be controlled, our task is to master our internal responses to the external world, to manage our thoughts and emotions. The never-ending cycle of trying to control our lives and failing brings about great disappointment. We seek out the one right thing that will give us control or put everything in order, such as the perfect career, the perfect partner. Or we may relocate thinking that if we live in the right city, we'll have everything settled into place. Yet, by seeking out this one thing that we expect to bring us peace, stability, love, and health, we end up dismissing the real power that is behind our eyes and not in front of them. The truth contained in this paradox is this: it is not what we choose that matters. Our power to influence an outcome lies in our reasons for making a certain choice. The challenge here is to learn what motivates us to make the choices that we do. Are we motivated by fear or by faith? Every choice we make, Caroline Myss says, contains the energy of either faith or fear, and the outcome of every decision reflects to some extent that faith or fear. Now, sacral chakra energy is volatile because it seeks to create, and creation just gets messy, as we know. As we try to make a place for ourselves in the physical world, our internal conflict between faith and fear is buried beneath the survival issues that tend to dominate our thoughts. The shadow side of the sacral chakra is our most prevalent fears, like financial loss and poverty, isolation, the inability to care for ourselves, the inability to protect ourselves from abuses. These fears can become a powerful force influencing our choices, and they can become like our false gods. To learn about our motivations and to discover our false gods, we need relationships as teachers. Relationships generate conflict, and conflict generates choice. Choice generates movement, and movement generates more conflict. In order to break the cycle, we need to make choices that transcend dualism and the perceived divisions between ourselves and others, and between ourselves and God. Remember the lesson of the first chakra, that all is one. So as long as we are focusing on trying to control another person and forgetting that this person is a mirror reflection back to us of our own qualities, we will keep conflict alive in ourselves. Second chakra energies need to move. They need to create life, to move the earth, to make an impression or a contribution to the continuum of life. Whereas inspiration is a seventh chakra quality, creative energy is essentially physical, of the earth, or grounded. It gives the sensation of being physically alive. This chakra energy gives us our desire to create art, music, architecture, and poetry, and the curiosity to investigate nature in science and medicine. Creative energy, Dr. Myss says, breaks us out of habitual patterns of behavior, thoughts, and relationships. Habit is a hell to which people cling in an attempt to stop the flow of change. Creative energy defies the repetition of habit. Second chakra energy provides our creative solutions to problems. Blocking this energy can bring about impotence, infertility, vaginal infections, endometriosis, and depression. It also interferes with spiritual maturation, as if we're stating, I don't want to see it anymore, I don't want to understand any deeper, I don't wish to interact with the learning processes of life. That's what we're saying to this energy if we are blocking it, shunning it, not letting it be released, not acting on it, not letting our creative energy flow. But if allowed to flow, creative energy continually acts to reshape our lives and reveal more meaning for why things happen as they do. One simple way to get the flow going is to take on a small task that represents your intention to rebuild your life. This can be something like planting flowers or beginning a new self-care habit, doing something good for yourself, eating healthy. Oftentimes, changing the routine and implementing a new activity will stir up creative ideas, creative solutions, and an awareness of resources that we didn't even notice before. Life seems to respond in kind with new opportunities showing up, chances to flex our skills and talents. Creative energy, when it's allowed to flow freely, can propel us along new paths that we never imagined. A creative idea has its own energy field, and it even generates the synchronistic involvement of other people and external circumstances that serve to carry out this idea. Creative energy radiates from us and draws to us the help that we need. Creative energy is powerful and volatile, and so a primary challenge is to use it wisely and consciously. Creativity can be used to change details of stories that we tell to suit our own purposes, or to manipulate someone to get what we want. But manipulation and gossip drain power from the sacral chakra. To the extent that there is a fear of betrayal or a fear of being taken advantage of that exists within us, that determines the extent to which we will behave in negative ways, such as lying and manipulating. Faith in anything, Dr. Myss says, be it positive or negative, produces results. Putting faith in fear generates destructive results, beginning with the disintegration of our ability to relate confidently to the external world. When we're motivated by fear, we are easily seduced by the false gods of external power, money, and sex, and everything that they represent. Once we are seduced, we give up our control to that seductive authority. The contamination of fear short circuits creative ideas and creative energy. Fear will block and shut down any new idea that threatens our assumed sense of control, which has seduced us. With the sacral chakra, the potential to create is also the potential for conflict. So the ultimate lesson of this chakra is honor one another, because conflict is going to come in relationships, and it's a test of how are you going to respond. When we act in alignment with this truth to honor one another, we bring out the best in ourselves and in others. Now, there is the challenge also of managing sexual energy. The second chakra contains the desire as well as the ability to create life. Besides creating life, sex is an avenue of self-expression, a means of making a statement about our comfort in relating physically to the world around us. Sexual eroticism is a form of physical and emotional liberation, as well as spiritual liberation, Dr. Myss says. Erotic pleasure is, by nature, in the moment, an encounter in which we drop most of our physical boundaries in order to enjoy the full meaning of human contact. Sexual eroticism normally produces orgasm, and the release of this voltage of energy is essential to physical and psychological health. Orgasm is one way of releasing the energy debris that we collect through ordinary human contact. Exercise and creativity are other ways to release this. But when you have no release, the energy backs up in the system, and it can produce reactions from depression to violence. The view of sexual energy as necessary, but always potentially out of control, contributes enormously to our society's schizophrenic tribal attitudes towards sexual expressions. Dr. Myss continues, "We view sexuality as a continual threat to our ability to manage ourselves or control others. Relationships of any kind bring out in us our need to protect ourselves. But sexual bonds bring out extreme fears, especially of betrayal, a fear so strong that it can threaten an intimate relationship." The puritanical history of American culture, combined with the value that we place on sexual control, contributes substantially to the widespread shame that people feel about their own bodies and sexual natures. Dr. Myss says that in her workshops, people came with stories of unfulfilled sexual lives, and they were as numerous as those coming just to generally improve their health. And many of these people admitted never having even one conversation with their partner about their personal sexual needs. That's how blocked off and repressed we are through our culture. She goes on to say, "This sexual shame, so prevalent in our tribal mind, contributes to American society's need to generate rules, setting proper and improper sexual behavior, yet another paradox of the second chakra." Criminal sexual violations like rape, incest, and child molesting are more than physical violations. They are also energetic violations. One can rape someone's energy field with verbal abuse or destructive, disempowering attitudes. Rape and incest, says Dr. Myss, of an energy field are motivated by the desire to cripple a person's ability to be independent and thrive outside the control of another person. The sexual organs warehouse the damage inflicted by these negative beliefs and actions. Numerous people who suffer from sexual problems, ranging from impotence to infertility to reproductive organ cancer, remember having been constantly criticized about their professional skills, ambitions, and accomplishments, as well as their physical appearance. In effect, their parents had stripped them of their personal power that they needed for their health and success. Energy violations like this have a karmic quality of inherent justice that transcends physical justice. Although people appear to get away with their criminal behavior, justice is always served at the energy level, whether or not anyone witnesses it. Now, this whole thing is Dr. Caroline Myss, but I definitely agree with this, so I just wanted to point that out. We don't always see justice taking place, and it's not on us to try to carry it out with every wrongdoing that we witness. Dr. Myss continues, "For this reason, spiritual teachings emphasize forgiveness and encourage people to get on with their lives." Amen. Whether or not we witness the unfolding of justice is irrelevant, and that is a spiritual fact that we often find hard to digest. Now, when it comes to managing sexual energy, there can also be an issue with the prostitution of our energy, which is actually a much more common violation than physical prostitution. Countless men and women remain in situations that represent physical security while feeling that they are selling a part of themselves in the process. So they're compromising their spirit. They're basically prostituting a part of their energy in order to have a semblance of security. Now, when it comes to the sacral chakra as an ethical energy center, the second chakra organs record all our interactions in which we give our word to other people, make promises and commitments to them, or accept their promises. A strong personal code of ethics radiates a perceptible quality of energy. And this part of our biology also records the promises that we make to ourselves, such as resolutions or plans to change our behavior. Ethics have enormous bonding power too, and we seek out the company of those who hold the same sense of right and wrong that we do. Because the second chakra harbors our individual survival fears, we have constructed an external legal system that, in theory, supports a social version of that sacred truth, honor one another, meaning that we have our laws and legal system that's supposed to basically uphold the rule to honor one another, in theory. The need for fair play and order is felt in our biology, where we experience the physical laws of health, such as movement and exercise, good nutrition, the conscious regulation of stress, and a measure of consistency and order. Obeying these laws of health signals to our physiology that we are safe and that we trust our environment. So if we're taking good care of ourselves, our physiology is picking up the message that everything's good and we can go forward with full health. Whereas instability keeps our adrenaline flowing and our fight or flight mechanism on constant alert, and the body just cannot endure prolonged stress without it producing negative biological responses. Common signs of a body in unbearable stress and chaos are things like ulcers and migraine headaches. Feeling that we are not in control of our own life is an unhealthy and damaging stress. One way to move toward feeling in control of yourself is to agree with yourself, to make yourself whole and balanced, to bring all of your aspects into alignment with each other. Because while there is a dysfunctional part of your nature that's negatively influencing the rest of your system, your energy will be depleted and divided against itself. So when we experience the negative biological effects of an excessive burden of stress, we do well to take the hint that we need to get back into harmony with ourselves. By our nature as humans, we are a species that seeks out law and order. That means we can easily fall under the sway of those people who project authority and a desire to be in control. Unfortunately, many people misuse such power and try to control people rather than support them. While some law and order is quite functional, such as a married couple agreeing to follow rules that honor one another, things like no extramarital affairs, no major purchases without a mutual agreement, this control becomes energetically destructive when there is an attempt to control another person's emotional, mental, or spiritual growth. A married couple must be willing to allow such growth in each other or the relationship will disintegrate. And parents often misuse this type of excessive control over their children as a way to assert their authority. Another misuse of second chakra energy is personal vengeance. The second chakra is our center of self-defense and the weapons we use to protect ourselves. But the energy of vengeance is one of the most toxic emotional poisons to our biological system, and it causes dysfunction ranging from impotence to cancers of the genital area. Creativity, sexuality, morality, and money are all forms of second chakra energy. The desire for personal power is also very key here. Power is a manifestation of life force. We need power to live and to thrive and to function. Illness is the natural companion of powerless people. Our relationship to this energy affects everything in our lives, including relationships with other people. The second chakra expresses this energy in physical forms of power, like materialism, authority, control, ownership, sexual magnetism, sensuality, eroticism, and addiction. Each of us as an individual needs to explore our relationship to physical power. We need to learn how and when we are controlled by external power and to which types of power we are most vulnerable. Power is life force, and through childhood we discover whether we have what it takes to draw this power to ourselves. If we determine that we are capable of drawing power to ourselves, we feel good, we know confidence, and we envision what we would like to accomplish as an adult and the ways that we will wield this power. But if we determine that we aren't able to attract this life force and power to ourselves, we begin living in a kind of power debt. And we envision a life surviving only through the energies of other people and not on our own. In the confident mind that knows it can attract power to itself, this can go badly, such as when the visualized future is filled with fantasies of overpowering others or delusions of grandeur. This excessive desire for power can even eclipse the reasoning mind that keeps in check our parameters for acceptable behavior. The appetite for power itself can become an addiction that challenges the will of God or the will of our higher self. The Bible is filled with scriptures about the power-hungry humans who were eventually humbled by divine design. The challenge is not to be power celibate, but to achieve an internal sense of strength that is sufficient to interact comfortably with physical power and without negotiating away our spirit. This is the meaning of being in the world but not of it. The challenge is to have a clean rapport with power. The challenge is to become impervious to contamination by the business of living. Regardless of fear or loneliness, we must honor our spirit and use our personal power ethically. Both contemporary spirituality and psychotherapy emphasize that personal power is fundamental to material success and spiritual balance. We lose personal power when we compromise our spirit, and the further we go down this path of compromise, the weaker we become because we are shutting off access to life force. We actually come to disempower ourselves when we misuse power. The sacred truth here of the sacral chakra is to honor one another. Learn to cherish the sacred unions that we form with each other throughout the days of our lives. Some reflection questions to check in with your sacral chakra. How do you define creativity, and do you follow through on your creative ideas? How often do you direct your creative energies into negative paths of expression? Do you exaggerate or embellish facts to support your point of view? Are you comfortable with your sexuality? Do you use people for sexual pleasure, or have you felt used? Are you strong enough to honor your personal sexual boundaries? Do you have an impression of God as a force that exerts justice in your life? Are you a controlling person or someone who uses power plays in a relationship? Does money have authority over you? Do you make compromises that violate your inner self for the sake of financial security? And what goals do you have for yourself that you have yet to pursue? What stands in the way of you acting on those goals? In other words, how are you connecting with your sacral chakra energy? Well, thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with the next installment of the chakra series, and we'll be looking into the third chakra, the solar plexus, and the healthy ego that we can develop with its energies. Everybody be well and take good care.